Have you ever felt that pull, that deep-seated curiosity about the mysteries of our world? For years, I was just like you, a skeptic. I'd hear the stories, watch the grainy videos, and scroll through countless online forums dedicated to cryptids and the unknown. Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever you want to call it. To me, it was all just folklore, campfire tales spun to thrill and entertain. I believed in what I could see, what I could touch, what science could prove. Anything else was just noise. But then, one chilly autumn afternoon, everything I thought I knew was turned completely upside down. My skepticism was shattered, replaced by an awe and a terror that I still feel to this day. This is the story of how I was saved by a Sasquatch, a story that reignited my belief in the vast, beautiful, and sometimes terrifying unknown that surrounds us. It all started with a solo hiking trip. I'm an experienced outdoorsman, or at least I thought I was. I've trekked through dozens of national parks, camped in remote wilderness, and always prided myself on being prepared. This trip was supposed to be a simple weekend getaway into the deep forests of the Pacific Northwest. A chance to disconnect from the digital world and reconnect with nature. I had my route planned, my gear checked, and my confidence high. The first day was perfect. The air was crisp, the scent of pine was intoxicating, and the only sounds were the rustling leaves and the chirping of birds. I felt completely at peace, blissfully unaware of what lay ahead. As the sun began to dip below the horizon on the second day, I realized I'd made a critical mistake. I'd pushed myself too hard, venturing further off the marked trail than I'd intended, chasing a viewpoint I'd read about online. Now, with dusk settling in, the familiar landmarks were gone. The trees, which had seemed so welcoming just hours before, now formed a dense, intimidating wall in every direction. My heart started to pound. I checked my compass, then my map, then my GPS. The GPS was dead. A cold knot of fear tightened in my stomach. I was lost. Every survival course I'd ever taken told me to stay put, build a shelter, and wait for morning. But panic is a powerful, irrational force. I started to walk, then to jog, desperately trying to backtrack, my mind racing. With each step, the forest seemed to grow darker, more menacing. That's when I heard it. A low growl rumbling from somewhere deep in the undergrowth to my left. It wasn't a bear, and it wasn't a cougar. I've heard both, and this was different. Deeper, more guttural. I froze, every muscle in my body tensing. The sound of my own ragged breathing was deafening in the sudden silence. I slowly reached for the bear spray on my hip, my hand trembling. Then another sound, a loud snap of a thick branch from behind me. I spun around, my headlamp cutting a frantic beam through the darkness. Nothing, just an impenetrable wall of trees and shadows. I was being circled. Whatever was out there, it was smart, and it was toying with me. The growls grew more frequent, coming from different directions now. It felt like a pack of wolves, but the sounds were too large, too resonant. My panic escalated into pure terror. I abandoned all logic and just ran. I crashed through bushes, stumbled over roots, my face and arms getting scratched by low-hanging branches. I didn't care. I just needed to get away. The sounds pursued me, always keeping pace, a constant, horrifying reminder that I was being hunted. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs felt like lead. I tripped, falling hard onto the forest floor. The impact knocked the wind out of me, and my headlamp flew off, its beam skittering across the leaves before extinguishing. I was plunged into almost total darkness, with only faint moonlight filtering through the dense canopy above. I lay there, gasping for air, convinced this was it. This is how it ends. The growling was closer now, a terrifying, chest-vibrating rumble. I could smell a musky, wet animal scent in the air. I squeezed my eyes shut, bracing for the inevitable. And then, a sound that stopped everything. It was a roar. Not from the creatures hunting me, but from something else. Something much, much bigger. It was a sound of pure primal power that seemed to shake the very ground beneath me. It was so loud, it hurt my ears. The growling and snapping noises that had been my personal soundtrack of terror stopped instantly. There was a moment of absolute silence, and then I heard it. The sound of something large crashing through the forest, but it was moving away from me. The hunters were fleeing. The forest fell silent again, but this time it wasn't a menacing silence. It was a peaceful one. I lay there for what felt like an eternity, my heart still hammering against my ribs. I was too scared to move, too scared to even breathe. What had just happened? What could possibly scare off a pack of what I could only assume were wolves or coyotes so completely? Slowly, cautiously, I pushed myself up. My eyes had adjusted slightly to the dark, and I could make out shapes and shadows. And that's when I saw it. Standing not 50 feet from me, partially obscured by a massive fir tree, was a figure. It was huge, easily 8 or 9 feet tall, broad-shouldered and covered in dark, matted hair. It wasn't a bear. It was standing on 2 legs, perfectly still, its silhouette unmistakable against the faint moonlight. It just stood there, watching me. I wasn't getting a sense of aggression from it, not like I had from the other animals. It was more like curiosity, or maybe protection. Its head tilted slightly, as if it were studying me. I couldn't see its face clearly, just the dark outline of a massive head. We were locked in this silent standoff for what must have been only a minute, but it felt like a lifetime. The initial wave of terror was being replaced by a profound sense of awe. This was it, the creature of myth and legend. It was real, and it had just saved my life. I don't know why, but I felt an overwhelming urge to say thank you. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. My throat was too dry, my mind too stunned. Then, as silently as it had appeared, it turned. With a single, fluid movement, it stepped back behind the tree and vanished into the darkness. There was no sound of crashing branches or heavy footfalls. It was just gone. The forest was quiet again. I was alone, but I no longer felt like I was in danger. I fumbled around, found my headlamp, and miraculously, it turned back on. Bathed in its familiar light, I felt a sliver of my old self return. I took a deep breath, gathered my wits, and focused on survival. The strange thing was, the fear was gone. The forest no longer felt hostile. Following a gut instinct, I started walking in the direction the creature had disappeared. Within 10 minutes, I stumbled upon a small, clear stream. I knew from my map that this stream led back toward the main trail. I had a landmark. I was no longer lost. By the time the sun rose, I was back on the marked path, exhausted and bruised, but alive. The walk back to my car was a blur. My mind was reeling, trying to process what had happened. Did it lead me to the stream? Was it just a coincidence? Was it a bear and my terrified mind filled in the blanks? No, I know what I saw. The height, the shape, the way it moved. It wasn't a bear. It wasn't a man in a suit. It was something else entirely. Something the modern world says doesn't exist. When I got home, I didn't tell anyone. Who would believe me? They'd say I was delirious from exhaustion and fear, that my mind played tricks on me. And maybe a part of me wanted to believe that too. It would be easier. But I can't shake the image of that towering figure in the moonlight. I can't forget the sound of that earth-shattering roar that sent my hunters fleeing. And I can't ignore the fact that, in my moment of greatest desperation, when I was completely lost and about to become prey, something intervened. Something protected me. That encounter changed me. I'm no longer the staunch skeptic I once was. The world feels bigger now, more mysterious, filled with possibilities I had closed myself off to. I look at those dense, unexplored forests on a map, and I don't just see trees and mountains. I see a world hidden within our own, a world of wonders that defy our neat scientific explanations. I don't know if I'll ever see one again. I don't even know if I'd want to, but I know they're out there. I know because one of them saved my life. My faith in the unknown wasn't just restored, it was forged anew in the heart of that dark forest. And for that, I am eternally grateful. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've had a similar, unexplainable experience, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more explorations into the unknown. Stay curious.